all you can hear is your own heart pounding. Your mind is racing. Have you done enough? Have you prepared your body for the test ahead? It's not just a race. This is Ironman. The 2000 City of Cairns Half Ironman Triathlon is one of the richest long-distance events in Australia. Now in its fourth year, up for grabs, 35 qualifying spots for the 2001 Australian Ironman in Foster. Hundreds of professional, part-time and occasional athletes will go head-to-head along the spectacular coastline, tackling a course comprising a 1.9 kilometre ocean swim, a 90k ride and just over 21 kilometres of running.
And this is where it all begins. Welcome to Queensland's tropical far north, where we're only moments away from a start in the 2000 City of Cairns Half Ironman Triathlon. And alongside for what's expected to be a hell of a ride, I have noted triathlon expert Nick Munting. And Nick, we've gathered a class field for today's event. Who do we have on board?
Well, Jamie, we've got the biggest field ever here for the City of Cairns Ironman today. And in that field, we have Craig Alexander, the 98-99 winner, back to try for a hat-trick. We've got Shane Snuffy Reid, we've got Chris Hill, both coming across from Olympic distance. We've got some noted women here. Former world champion Rina Hill will be a starter today and surely a leader in the early going. The Belindas, Belinda Granger and Belinda Cheney, also looking very strong in this race today. It's going to be an awesome race.
Ever wondered what triathletes really think? We took a few minutes with some of the sport's top competitors in the lead up to the City of Cairns Half Ironman, asking all the probing questions.
Probably the best feeling is finishing an Ironman. It's by far, it exceeds anything else because you've been striving for so long.
My favourite moment in any competition is always finishing, but also starting.
I think that would have to be crossing the line at 1996 Junior Triathlon World Championships. I qualified in 6th place and I crossed the line not knowing whether I'd won or not.
I think everyone's favourite moment in competition is the finish line. I think my best race to date would be the Australian Ironman this year where I finished 4th.
Well, I've only been doing triathlon since I was 21. Before that, I played soccer for 12 years, which is still probably my first love when it comes to, apart from my wife, of course.
I think that I'd probably get back into netball or touch football.
Surfing, just really relaxing and enjoyable and get to travel around the world in great locations.
I think I probably wouldn't mind trying basketball. I played when I was young and I like the team atmosphere, although I think I'd probably want to have the ball too often. I'd probably be a bit of a hog, so I don't know whether it'll work.
Maybe something like volleyball, basketball, you know, with a bit of sort of on-court kind of hype.
I think at Mooloolaba this year when I had to walk, and actually on the TV footage, they actually edited that part into the TV coverage, so there was a nice picture of me having a walk and a vomit into the garden.
In 1995, when my swimmers were pulled down, my bottoms of my swimmers were pulled down to my feet during the swim. And that was embarrassing because I was thinking about having to run out in the nude. It wouldn't have been good.
Getting beaten by the girls.
I think probably my big stack in the Sydney World Cup qualifier for the Olympics.
Went down a hill basically in the cattle left cattle mess on the road. Down the hill, straight into it, straight off my bike, covered in cow crap.
This is the view those living in the tropical far north wake up to most mornings, and it's essentially what Palm Cove is all about. Dolphins playing only a short distance from the shoreline, locals fishing from kayaks, while others boat their way to the neighbouring resort of Double Island. What a way to kick off the working day. This magical tourist spot, only 20 minutes north of Cairns, has so much going for it, you could run out of breath trying to describe it. But I'll give it a go anyway. It's the start of one of the most beautiful stretches of road in the country. The Captain Cook Highway, bordered by the cooling waters of the Coral Sea and white sands. With some of the region's best hotels right on the beachfront, there's something for everyone. Shopping, dining in the local restaurants, or just hanging around. It's a short drive to the city, and the cosmopolitan Port Douglas is just up the road. Not that you'd want to leave here, of course. What has long been one of Queensland's best kept secrets is slowly developing into an international tourist destination. It was little wonder organisers of the City of Cairns Half Ironman Triathlon chose this to be where it all begins. And they're off in the 2000 City of Cairns Half Ironman. It's a bit of a wrestle as they head out from the Palm Cove beach out towards the first marker. And Nick, how important is it for the athletes to get some clear water and get out first to the first marker?
It's absolutely vital because the clean water is very useful for being able to swim smoothly. Once you're jammed in the pack, your stroke is shortened, you can't kick cleanly, and it slows you down immensely.
And Nick, we've got some class athletes out there this morning. Who are the top swimmers and who can we look for to hit the beach first?
Well, probably the top three will comprise Queensland's Reece, Rackley. Two-time winner Craig Alexander will be very strong, but perhaps the favourite this morning should be Chris Hill. He's coming off the back of a big Olympic campaign and he's looking to make his mark.
In regard to the women, who are we to keep an eye on, and who do we expect to be first into that transition period?
Well, again, we'll see Rebekah Keat, who has never done this distance before, but she will be very strong. New Zealand's Sally Carter, she's a great swimmer. She'll be right up there. Belinda, Cheney and Belinda Granger, they'll be good too. We've certainly got a group now of some 7 to 8 swimmers heading back into shore. They've got one section of the swim to go now before the 90k bike ride, and right now we're seeing a perfect arrowhead formation. It looks like Chris Hill out in front. Craig Alexander is right up there. Reece Rackley too, Jason Meadows, Shane Reed, and then it looks like Grant Rollo, one of the age groupers, has swum into this group of professionals.
Hill staked his claim for the title early with a strong showing in the swim, leading defending champ Craig Alexander into the transition, followed closely by burly triathlete Reece Rackley, with Jason Meadows and Shane Reed not far behind. In the women's, Sally Carter sprang the first surprise of the day, leading Rina Hill and Belinda Cheney into the bike transition, setting the ride up for a tight tussle. The 90-kilometre stage starts as a breathtaking ride north, with athletes heading through Ellis Beach and along the Captain Cook Highway, over the Rex Lookout and around the turning point. From there, it's back the way they came, only this time they pass Palm Cove and the northern beaches before arriving at Fogarty Park for the run transition.
Each year, so much of the focus for the triathlon goes on the guys and girls at the top of the sport. But for the majority of the athletes taking part in the 2000 City of Cairns Half Ironman, prize money, prestige and qualifying spots have nothing to do with why they compete. Take David Loader, for example. By day, he runs one of Palm Cove's most tranquil settings, the beautiful Siebel Reef House Hotel. But 3 to 4 times a week, he's up with the birds, pounding on the pavement or hitting the highway. David's one of those people who went the distance last year and is back for more, knowing exactly what'll be going through his mind as he stands on the water's edge.
I know I'll be standing on the edge of the water thinking I haven't done enough work, but that's always the case.
For local mother of 2, Lisa Hansen, it's a whole different story. The former aerobics instructor has only recently made a move into triathlon and isn't letting the half Ironman distance worry her. She knows she won't be up with the winners or even the middle pack, but that doesn't matter.
It's just basically important to me to finish in one piece, comfortably, not killing myself.
We'll bring you an update on our 2 intrepid athletes and let you know how they go.
All right, take us through how important this next phase is. The transition, of course, a good ride can set you up.
Absolutely, and getting out on your bike is very, very important as well. And running out there looks like Reece Rackley. He's going to be first out of transition. That's a wonderful race start for this young Queenslander.
And it's Craig Alexander, certainly alongside Reece Rackley there, and we can see Craig will probably slow down in a second. He's got 1 foot out of his boot at the moment, so there we go, he's slipping it back in. Speaking to him in the lead up to the event, he's been doing a lot of work in Europe. He says that he's probably put more work into his run, so if he can get a breakaway here, we can anticipate that he's going to be fairly strong on the run home.
He will indeed, and what we're going to be watching now behind Craig is how those top positions in the bike form. Will Chris Hill get up into that leading bunch? If he does, that's going to be serious trouble for anybody in front of him. He is the best runner in the field.
Craig Alexander and Jason Meadows would swap the lead half a dozen times in the race north. Seconds behind would be Chris Hill and Shane Reed, with a 2-minute gap to the rest of the field. The highly ranked women were slowly reeling in pace setter Sally Carter. 24-year-old Belinda Cheney making up a lot of ground quickly to move to the lead, with former world junior champ Rebekah Keat right on her tail and 98 winner Rina Hill only 20 seconds behind.
Rebekah Keat making up great ground to overtake Belinda Cheney, but Belinda Cheney is a noted bike rider and she'll be expected to fight back.
It's a great fight out between these two. Cheney, of course, has Ironman experience. She was third in South Africa this year. She competed at Ironman Australia, complete with a broken elbow, for 9th. But young Rebekah Keat, first time ever at long distance, and she's puffing and blowing, but she is well in control of this race with the women at the moment.
And yes, it is. It's Belinda Cheney. Certainly has put the move on there over Rebekah Keat.
She has indeed, and Cheney very forcefully surging at that point, and once again claiming the lead from Keat, but never fear that right behind them there waiting and watching is Rina Hill. So 3 very, very good experts racing here in the lead of the women's category at the City of Cairns, the half Ironman. It is indeed a real cat and mouse game going on between Jason Meadows leading the race at this point, but in the background we can see just behind Craig Alexander, Chris Hill stalking them ever closer, and that's Snuffy Reed in behind. So the 4 have now broken away as they come up over the Rex lookout, and we've got a race on now of just 4 men.
At the turnaround, Craig Alexander led the way, followed by Meadows, Hill and Reed, with Reece Rackley in 5th. But a second group was starting to make a move.
That looks like that's the first of our Japanese contingent there, Nick.
Doing a great job. That's Masayuki Matsumura, and he is going well. Belinda Cheney just coming in, leading Rebekah Keat, and the women going very strong. You know, they're only about 20 minutes behind the leading men, and certainly as we see a balancing act there, and a change as they in fact balance up and head back on the run to Cairns.
There's super rider Belinda Granger. She's making her way around, and what a ride she's had to the halfway point, making up an enormous amount of ground after probably what she'd consider was a poor swim.
She has, in fact, at the halfway point, made up that deficit from the swim. She is now in a neutral position. She has made 3 minutes. You know, I wonder if she can actually gain enough time on these women to get back into the race.
As we look back now to the second group back behind the leaders, and in that group I think we'll find Grant Webster. Yeah, there's Grant there, obviously coming off a great performance in Foster, where he was second across the line and obviously the first Australian, Nick.
He was indeed, and probably finding the going just a little bit fast for him today. His training has all been for Ironman. He's heading off overseas to compete another Ironman very shortly, and but in some good company there. Matsumura, the Japanese guy riding with him, Patrick Hofer also just ahead, and that second group doing a particularly good job, racing very cleanly.
Reece Rackley still holding on, and after last year's effort where he did start strongly, he'll be hoping he doesn't fade away.
Yes, he's starting to tighten up a little bit on the bike here, but a great effort. He is still chasing hard. That quartet in front, of course, so powerful.
Bit of a yarn out there in the middle of the race. These guys obviously know each other pretty well.
They do, and one of the great things about triathlon is the camaraderie. These guys out there trying to beat each other home to the prize money, but a couple of seconds as they pass each other there to quickly catch up with how each other's feeling. Probably more to the point, they're wondering if these 2 behind are ever going to come up and actually challenge them.
And there we see the 2 girls dicing up the front. Rebekah Keat looking very comfortable, just ahead of her, Belinda Cheney. And of course, Belinda Cheney will be trying to take it into the transition area in first and try and keep Rebekah Keat out of it.
And Cheney now must be feeling very nervous because Rebekah Keat is pedalling strongly. She has raced this race very strongly. She is an absolutely noted runner, and Belinda Cheney, meanwhile, knows she is very strong on the bike, but she is much better over the full marathon.
Only moments away from hitting that transition area, and it's going to be a fairly interesting situation. Guys are going to be running everywhere. Marshals will be pointing them in the right direction. And how much importance can you place on that, Nick, on the guys getting off their bikes, getting their runners in hand and getting out on the track?
It's a deep psychological advantage. If they all hit transition together, the guy who knows that can make the transition the faster, can get his shoes on, his helmet off, get prepared, get mentally stabilised, and get out the back of that transition and starts the run. He knows the others have to play catch-up.
Into the final transition, and nothing separated the top four, with Craig Alexander and Jason Meadows making a number of attempts to break away. But pocket rocket Chris Hill was determined to hang on. With the race in the balance, it became clear whoever could pull away on the run would take the title. The 21-kilometre run leg comprises 3 laps of the scenic Esplanade pathway, with the terrain changing from paving to gravel and grass. Runners head back to Fogarty Park on the final lap and through to the finish.
Are two of the most recognisable faces in world triathlon. Erin Baker, the Kiwi who dominated the sport for a decade, and Scott Molina, the laid-back Californian known as the Terminator, are familiar faces, both claiming titles at the prestigious Hawaii Ironman in the late 80s and early 90s. Like so many international visitors to Cairns, they were keen to check out what was on offer, taking a trip along the world-renowned Skyrail and finding out all about life in the tropical north. While Erin's days of competition may be over, she's still happy to look back on a career of highlights.
I suppose winning the Commonwealth Games in New Zealand, and I think that was about 1990, was pretty special. I think I knew it was as close as I was ever going to get to an Olympics. It was a home crowd type of feeling, and so that was great. And I think also winning the Hawaiian Ironman is pretty special.
Scott Molina is still going around, the 88 world champion throwing his hat into the ring this year for the Cairns Half Ironman. While he's been on the scene for over 2 decades, he concedes there's been plenty of changes in the sport, but not enough for him to trade in his runners just yet.
It's become a little bit more scientific. Obviously, you have the experience of a lot of others that have come before you now to draw upon, so it's maybe not quite as new. But the thing I still enjoy about it is that it's still just as much of a challenge as it ever was.
Scott's just one of a large contingent of athletes going hard in this year's event, all hailing from right across the globe. Guam, Saipan, the US, New Zealand, Japan and Singapore are all represented, stamping the Cairns event as a player on the international stage. While Scott and Erin currently call Christchurch, New Zealand home, a move to Queensland's warmer climes may not be that far away.
I always knew that one day I'd end up in a warm, tropical place. Most people do when they get a little bit older. So this is one of the first serious looks I've had at where I'm going to spend my, twilight years.
And this is the race within a race as Snuffy Reid now goes into rack his bike. We can see Jason Meadows already pulling on his shoes. There's Craig Alexander running down to his rackets at the other end of transition. He has the shortest run to actually come out. Snuffy Reid there. These guys side by side.
All right, Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Put your money where your mouth is. Who's going to take this one? Who's the best and most accomplished runner in that group and who can draw away?
Well, like we saw with the great Greg Welch, the little guys can fly on the run. Less weight, less bulk to carry around, and that would very much put the mantle of winner on Chris Hill's shoulders. Chris Hill looking fluid, looking very, very easy at his running, and almost now looking very close to being able to start coming out ahead. Craig Alexander, Snuffy Reid behind him, Jason Meadows coming up in 4th place at this point in time, and Craig must have dug deep to come back into that 2nd place.
The race is certainly ahead of Craig, and I think we saw Craig Alexander's wife Nerida there on the side cheering him on. Obviously she's keen to see him notch up a hat-trick of victories here in Cairns.
Nearing the end, and the girls were staging a tough battle, with Rina Hill struggling to catch Rebekah Keat. Belinda Cheney was fading quickly as the temperature rose, effectively leaving the contest as a two-way battle. As the men closed in on the finish line, the man triathletes referred to as the Professor, Chris Hill, would prevail in record time. After being unceremoniously dumped from the Australian Olympic squad only weeks before, he showed his critics he can perform over the longer distance.
I broke away at about 4K, I guess, and I felt pretty good, so I just tried to run on and run comfortable because I've never raced this far before, so I didn't know what to expect.
The race didn't quite pan out the way I wanted. I thought on the bike with the tough course and the wind, I thought Jason Metters and myself would be able to break the other two boys, but to their credit, they stuck, they hung in there, and then he showed me a clean set of heels in the run, and it's a good win for him, I think.
In the women's, Rebekah Keat, also on her first attempt at half Ironman, wrapped up the title in her own unique way, to the cheers and congratulations of a big Cairns crowd.
I won, that's all that matters, I won. I've got a new coach, Cole Stewart, and he just sort of wanted to keep it pretty quiet, and I didn't expect much, and he said to me, well, he told everybody else he thought I'd win it, and I really wasn't that confident. I was just hoping to finish the thing, so I was pretty surprised, and I just felt really strong out there.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks of training under my belt. Thought I'd use this race as a bit of training, and it turned out to be a good training day, yeah.
Checking out the final results in this year's City of Cairns Half Ironman, and in the men's, Queensland's Chris Hill was first over the line in a time of 3 hours 56 minutes and 12 seconds, followed by last year's winner Craig Alexander. Jason Metters picked up third with Shane Reed as the first Kiwi across the line in just over 4 hours. Grant Webster picked up fifth. In the women's, the smiling Rebekah Keat won in the quick time of 4 hours 29 minutes and 23 seconds, with Rina Hill second, Belinda Cheney third, New Zealand's Nicole fourth, and Sydney's Belinda Granger just behind in fifth.
As the clock ticked down to 6 hours and over, there were still athletes on the course. People meeting their own personal challenges, determined not to give in, focused only on finishing. At the start of the race, we told you about 2 athletes taking part in this year's event. For the record, David Loader finished the race off well, 26th in his age group and 158th overall. Lisa Hansen put all her pre-race fears behind her, crossing the line short of 7 hours, greeted by her ecstatic family. Both had pushed their bodies to the limit to complete the marathon, and while thousands watched, they, along with over 300 others, can now rightly say, we did it.